But before we go ahead and post contributions, let me just go over the features and functions that are available within the contributions for posting area as well. This is the giving date. Usually it's a Sunday or a Wednesday. You want to stick with the same day of the week if all your giving was done on a Sunday. Even though you may post those contributions on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, always try to use that same Sunday date so that way everything's consistent and concise with the day of the week that it was given. Up here we'll start with the use checks, yes or no. This is a radio button option that allows you to say, if I do not choose to use checks, but I do want to track what kind of contributions was cash and what was a check, even though I'm not going to use a check number, I can go through and leave this in this mode, so as I'm posting contributions I can just check and say, okay, that was a check, that was a cash. If you do want to use check numbers and you want to post them in this area, you can say yes and just type in the check number as you want. If you choose to just leave it default and you don't care whether your report classifies and separates your cash from your check, then just leave it on yes and don't use check numbers, but all of your postings on your statements or your reports for contribution statements or also your detail reports will show that all the entries were cash because there was no check number, or it was all set to default here cash and nothing was changed and flagged as a check. In this area for the categories of tithes, offerings, missions, building, special, and non-tax deductible, and I'll cover these two areas in a little bit later on. Basically you have your tithes, your offerings, your missions, your building fund areas. You have your special categories, and you'll find that this special category will be one of your biggest areas most likely, because you may have special funds or special areas of donations that you want to track that don't fit up in these other categories. This non-tax deductible area is for books and tapes. It allows you to split a posting that some of the check was for ties and some of it was to pay for camp or to buy t-shirts or to pay for books and tapes that they may have purchased. This just allows you to go through and keep track of the distinction between that donation or contribution that was tax deductible and those that were not. This area here allows you to go through, and if you wanted to put a special note, let's say it's a special category that's been given, but you want to put a note attached to that, which will show down here in the memo area. That will give you a little bit of a comment space that you can put a little brief message on it, which will be attached to the posting for this particular special fund. This area here is Tommy and Jill, Tommy or Jill. This relates to the household information over here. In this case, Tommy and Jill don't have any children added to their family members area. If they did, then their children would show here, so that way you could post for Tommy and Jill who want to have their postings posted together as a couple. If Tommy and Jill wanted to have separate tracking of their contributions, you could actually select Tommy or Jill and post contributions specifically for them, and they will come out on the statements in a household combined total, but it will separate a subtotal according to the individual family member that the tithe or contribution was posted for. That's where, for example, if they did have children and they showed up in this list, you could actually have children within households giving contributions and track them, but it would also show as a separate subtotal within the household contribution statement. This batch number is if you want to go through and use it for batch numbers. Let's say you want to do a deposit slip, or you just want to track your balances of what you entered in on Monday to make sure it balances, and what you entered in on Tuesday and make sure that balances. Or if you do a batch in the morning and you want to track the primary batch number 1 according to the secondary batch number 2 that you did in the afternoon, you could put a batch number in here and use that for balancing out both those areas. That's totally up to you. It's not necessary to put that in, but that's just an example if you do need that. In here we have a search that you can search on all the different contribution categories one at a time, or a dollar amount, or you can do a check number or a date, or you can do a search for the years that show up on your list. Reports allows you to go through and print contribution reports. That would be for statements, detail reports. We'll go over that in a little bit as well. The funds area allows you to go through and actually set up the different funds that are going to be available from this drop-down list up here. or the post function is allow you to, whenever you put in a date, and you can simultaneously put multiple givings in these areas and hit the post, and it will actually post all of them for you simultaneously and list them for you down here. But before we go ahead and post, let me go ahead and show you the funds area, because that will give you the areas that you can set up for posting contributions to. On the tithes, for example, is general fund. You can change this to say tithe if you want, or you can use general fund. It depends on your environment. This order is the order in which it's going to be listed on this area in here. For example, if we go down to special, you see we have 4 different items in here. As we click on that, it shows us that that's order number 00. This is order 01. This is order 01. And this basically is saying that after I want this to be my default, everything else I don't care what order, I just want an alphabetical order. So you can have a specific order set to your categories as well. So in here, if you click on offerings, and let's say you want to do a special offering, you can click on a new and type in, and that's just going to be 01, because it's going to be the second in the list, and you can do a save. Same thing with your building. You can create unlimited fund categories. Once you do set up a fund category, it needs to basically be there all year long for your contributions that you've been posted for. And then after the new year, you can go through and do your statements, and then you can do some work. But it's really better to have these contribution fund designations out there, because you have prior years that have been posted maybe to these categories, and these categories would be necessary to keep, to be able to find and locate for those records that were posted from previous years. But let's go ahead and just click on the posting to come back to this area. And we'll touch base on the reports after we go through and do some postings here. And I'll explain there, and when we do data entry, about what these missions and building hyperlinks to go through and how they work. Let's go ahead and stay on the Tommy and Joe Jonas that we're on. Let's put in the date that we're going to post contributions for. And we're going to post general fund. We're going to post $10, and it's going to be check number 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say they gave to missions, but let's say they give missions outreach, and you can go again and go into your funds and create any type of categories you want that may not be listed in this area here. But let's put $15, and let's make this a check number 1, 4, 5, 6. And let's go to special funds, and let's type in they gave to the IE Vision, and let's say they gave $25 to that, and let's say that was cash, so we could just leave that alone and not put a check number in there, and it will be designated as cash. But let's say now they actually, on the contributions envelope, they gave to more than one special area. These links here, it allows you to go through and click on it, and gives you an option to select another special category, and that would be the same for this missions. It will only change just for this single posting, and after you go through and post these dollar amounts, this will change back to missions and building. But this just gives you an option to post multiple specials simultaneously at one time. And let's say they gave $30 there, and let's say that was check 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say we wanted to do a special, and let's say based on the mission, let's just say this was something like local community missions. And at that point, it's going to be both associated to Tom and Joe together. And we hit post. It would take all these areas here, post them down in here for you, and 25, 10, 10, show you this information and keep track of all that information for you that's down there. And now if we want to go ahead and do a find on another one, we can actually do 2 things. We can either click a show here, and we can just go through and pull up our people that we want to post contributions for. And you notice that our date stayed here, and let's say they gave $25 and no check. Let's just do a post. It sets the $25, shows you it was cash. This is the total for that date. Let's go down to Jack Hanman, and let's say he gave $15 here. Let's say he gave $25 here for missions, and it was for outreach. And let's say they gave for event tickets $20. and it was a credit card, or you could go through and just credit card process and do a post. And you notice that Han is the only one that shows up because he's an individual person over here, and he also has no children or family members associated to him as well. So basically it goes through and shows your ties, missions, and your non-tax deductible items. So we've got some postings for January 20th. If we're sitting here and we have an envelope that just came in, and the category that we want to post for is not found in our area, we can actually right here click on funds. Let's say it's a special, let's say it's new, and let's say it was for wedding room decorations, and it doesn't matter what order it's in, but it's going to be down the list, so we just do a save. There, we go back to postings, and let's say that they go through and they did special, and he also gave to the wedding. Let's say you gave $10 to that, and you do a post, and here's where you have your postings. But let's say, for example, that this was a mistake. This missionary outreach was actually for, let's say, $55 instead, and we put the wrong number in here. We can click on any one of the items for that. It will repopulate this area up here for us. If it had a check number, it would put it over here. But we can actually change that to 55. Or at this point, we could delete this entry. We could do a cancel and leave it 25. Or we could do a save, and you notice that the item down here for mission outreach for that date turned to $55. If we had an envelope that had a new person that we could not find on our list, we could go through and put a new for a new household. But at the same time, let's say we went through and we want to do a search for a particular date. Now we do a continue. Now I'll go through and found all the different people that we posted for this date, and that just gives you a quick reference if you can go through and make sure that your actual envelopes match what you have as far as your households that you post contributions for. You can do reports, which will go through and give you the details about the dollar amounts and the amounts for cash and general funds and subcategories as well. In the same way, for example, you can go through and say, okay, give me a search, and on this special, give me everybody who gave you the wedding decorations, and do a continue. It will find it because it has a combination of this date and the wedding decorations. If you don't want it for that date and you want to say give me everybody in the system who has given for that, then it will go through and pull them up, and now in this case it's just as the same person that it found. And you notice that this is a little different. I'm always in the search mode here. I can go through and get rid of that area for special, come down here and say give me everybody who gave in the year 2000, and do a search. These are the individuals that have out here that gave in 2011. Now you'll notice here that this is still left at 2009. If I went back up here and did a posting for this, as that comes out, it comes back and says verified the posting year above is for 2011. You can, if this is correct, meaning that you posted for 2011, you can ignore this message. The other option is you can go through and just select this back to here as well, and when this updates and changes, that will be okay and this message won't come up anymore. The other thing is, the reason why this is here is because you could, for example, type in 2001 instead of 11, or 10 instead of 11, and it just helps to kind of validate your posting that you're doing, that you're posting for the correct year that you want to post for. If you do end up posting for a wrong year and you did put a 2001 in here, what would happen is this would show a 2008, 2007, and a 2001, and then you could go through and do a search and say, well, who did I post for that, and do a search 2001, and it would show everybody over here that you gave, and then you could edit their contributions because it had the wrong posting date. Let's go ahead and now do a report for everybody that gave on the 20th of January. Now if I click on the reports, it pulls up the last date that I already was on, but in this case I'm going to change it to the 20th because that's what and it will go through and show me all the postings that I did based on currency and cash, family member posted on, the category, the designation, and the check number and a batch number if you chose to use that. Now that we've concluded the contributions posting area, but one of the things you do want to make sure that you do after every session is log out. So you can click on the log out button, and now that you're back on the login screen, you're finished with your posting of contributions.